Hey guys, welcome back to the Blackjack Apprenticeship podcast. I'm here with our lovely co-host SD1. SD1, how's it going?
Lovely, huh?
You
like that, Joe.
Yeah.
2026, I'm telling you right now, it's a pleasure to be with you again, Joe. It's going to be a great year.
Start the year off right.
Be a good year.
And that additional voice you hear is our special guest for today. It's JoeMiner. And JoeMiner has been a part-time card counter, multiple six-figure card counter with us to share his wisdom and his journey with us. How you doing, JoeMiner?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Kind of mimicking what SD1 said. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you guys.
Joe, specifically, not me, Joe.
Yeah. And if you are on the Blackjack Apprenticeship Forum, you've probably seen some posts from JoeMiner, and he recently shared a post about his recent journeys in the casino. But for those of you who don't know, JoeMiner is different than most card counters that enter into the ecosystem. He doesn't fit the typical demographic, young 20s white dude card counter at the table. So I'm curious to hear how JoeMiner's experience has been different playing in a retirement stage.
I was still working when I first started, but then shortly after I first started, I retired.
Yeah, so let's start. So how did you get into card counting?
Well, I was living in San Diego, and I had just been divorced, living on my own, and my friend at the time, his name was Toy Man, and he said, "Hey, look, let's go to Vegas. We'll go up. I got a room at the Flamingo, and we'll go up there and you can play some blackjack." I found a basic strategy chart on blackjack, and I just glanced at that as we were driving up, and I had $300 in my pocket. I thought, wow, that should last a while. And short story shorter is first session, we were there, and the pit boss was dressed up like Elvis Presley. It was kind of fun. But my $300 lasted maybe 20 minutes. So that was my introduction.
Did you use a basic strategy card at the table?
No, I actually thought I had it memorized, so I didn't. But as it turned out, I did not have it memorized. It was a 4-hour drive from Las Vegas to San Diego. I thought I got this. This is this piece of cake. All you have to do is beat the dealer to 21, right? That's the name of the game. So I said, I just have to do better than dealer without going over 21. So it's simple. It's a piece of cake.
From that point, how did you discover that you can actually tip the edge in your favor?
Okay, so we went up again the following month, and this time I took $500, and that lasted about the same amount of time, 20 minutes. And my friend who thought he knew how to play blackjack, and he was probably a better player than me at that time, but he introduced me to the martingale betting system. And after that second weekend, I realized that, that's not right. That's not a good system. And to me, it was more about money management than understanding the game. So I started doing some reading, found Ed Thorpe's book and some Stanford Wong's books. And from there, then I started to delve into more about betting, as well as making sure I understood basic strategy. And it wasn't until a little bit later that I learned something about deviations. But at first it started with me understanding that the martingale system is not how you bet, and there's a betting strategy, and it's about money management, and that's what I concentrated on.
Okay, so that playing duration, how many years was that? And also, how old were you when you did that trip to Vegas, when it all kind of kicked off?
I was 48.
Okay. And how long was that duration of time that you had played before your break?
Between 92 and 96, that was kind of my inaugural period. And that's when I really started to learn and to study and really get excited about it. And it was math-based, and my career was based on math. So I thought, wow, this is going to be so much fun. And so between 92 and 96, I did a lot of studying. And then in 96, that's when I joined BJA21.com, came up with an alias, Joe Miner. So Joe Miner was born in 1996, and I was 52 when I really started taking the game seriously.
Okay. So how did that stretch go in terms of success, EV, backoffs? Tell me about all that.
I didn't have any backoffs between 92 and 96. I played around 240 hours only in those 4 years. And I started off initially at $300, and I turned that $300 into $10,000 after that 4 years. Then after that, I really started to play a lot more. I was getting around 120 hours a year between 96 and 2002. Between the time I started 92 and the 2002, I accumulated 100 grand.
Nice. What was your spread? What did your spread look like back then, and what kind of games were you playing?
Except for the first couple years where I was playing a six deck, I switched over to double deck, and I played double deck exclusively all the way through to 2002. I was only playing one hand, and my max bet was maybe $150, $200, something like that. One hand, half deck 10. But back then, I mean, they had late surrender, you could resplit aces. It was rule-wise, a much friendlier game.
On the double deck, you could do
On the
that?
double deck, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But
Nice.
back then, I mean, you can't now. And then I switched my counter, started off with high-low, and then after reading Sussinger's book, I switched to RPC. Actually, I played RPC all the way up until I joined BJA in 2020.
I want to talk about the good old days for a second, because you've seen the game change so much of all the years you've been at the tables. The good rules and everything, was it sort of offset by how few casinos were around, or?
There weren't nearly as many casinos as now. For me, before 96, they didn't pay any attention to me at all. And it was probably because back then, maybe my max bet might have been $100. So I'd go from whatever the table minimum was, $10, $15, $25 to 100, maybe 150, but only one hand. I can remember walking with my friend Toyman. We were staying at the Flamingo, and we would go next door to Barbary Coast that we called Barney's because it was so lame, and have like a $5 pancakes and bacon lunch, walk over to Bellagio, newly opened at the time, and we could sit down at a two-deck game at the Bellagio. We'd be the only ones there, and sit down and have freshly squeezed orange juice, coffee, and it was a social experience. Nobody paid any attention to us at all. Great rules. We'd stay an hour, even 2 hours without any problem. But since then, and I've noticed a huge change, especially since 1996, on the quality of games. They're hit 17. Back then, it was the stay 17. I forgot to mention that, but the rules were just incredible. I wish I would have known what I know now back then.
You probably didn't see a single 6-5 table on the strip back then.
Didn't even know 6-5 could be possible. They were all 3-2. Binions had a single deck game. I tried playing that several times, but I could never get the feel for single deck. Which, once again, I wish I would have knew then what I know now, because single deck, that would have been a blast. But I remember going in Binions, and they had maybe 10 single deck games going on at one time. It was just incredible.
There probably wasn't even a lot of 8-deck back then.
I didn't even know anything about 8-deck. I knew about 6, single, and double deck.
Do you remember what the penetration was like on the double decks back then?
It was about 0.5, 0.6, something like that. Kind of similar to the station rules now.
It's hard to believe that's only 30 years ago. I mean, to me, that doesn't seem like that long ago. But then I say 30 years, and I guess that is the amount of time. But, man, it has changed a lot rapidly.
Oh, it's even changed a lot now, the past 2 years. My God.
So what brought you back to the game, to counting? Because you say you're off for you didn't do it for 10 years, right?
I moved from San Diego to North Carolina to retire. I was tired of California and I had to get out. But trying to play, the only place I played in San Diego, I did all of the casinos around San Diego, and then the 4-hour trip to Vegas. When I moved here, I would make 2 trips to Vegas and do maybe 2 20-hour trips a year. So I was only able to get 40 hours in. So I didn't like that because I couldn't play as much as I wanted to play, but I still had the feel and the passion for the game. And then COVID hit, and then after COVID hit, I was really bored. Couldn't go to San Diego. Joined BJA, and that changed everything for me. I mean, my passion just, I mean, it was always strong, but it just accelerated after 2020. And especially after boot camp in 21.
When you joined BJA, what did BJA give you that you didn't get from other places?
Number one, I say networking. There were people there that had seemed like they had the same passion for the game that I had. They were students of the game. They wanted to learn more. And BJA had all of these, the training site and stuff that Colin and Ben first set out, watching their videos. When I first came across BJA online, I said, wait, this is some kind of a scam, so I researched that, and I talked to somebody, maybe I even emailed Munchkin, and he's saying, no, these are real guys, you need to do it. So I joined up, and with all their training stuff and support and whatnot, I dropped my Revere point count, I took up high-low. And then that's when I first started playing double deck, was in 2021. Prior to that, there were some on-site training stuff. Casino Rede, I had their stuff and I could do their simulations. You could simulate the game and come up with a best spread. Prior to that, there was John Austin had the Blackjack risk manager that I used between the period of prior to 96.
When you went to boot camp, seeing as you kind of had experience at the table, you won a considerable amount before going to boot camp. It's not like you just started doing this. When you went to boot camp, what was your experience like as far as the learning and then the test out part? Was there anything that surprised you after playing for a while?
Oh yeah, hanging around with people that were there, because I said that they all seemed to have the same passion that I had, and I found that very, very supportive. And then all the pros that were there. I mean, you were there, and SD1 was there, and Leck was there, and Nichols was there, and hearing all your stories and experiencing the camaraderie that experience had. My test out for me was something else, because I had not played 6-deck for years. So it was all double deck. So, but your test outs were 6-deck, and the counting drills were set at tables. I remember Leck dealt one time where there's 2 other of us, myself, 2 other guys that were there counting, all set to count. Oh yeah, running count is 12. No, it's 9. No, it's 13. And then during my test out, SD1 actually tested me out on double deck. Prior to that test out, because everybody was doing their 6-deck test out, so I went to the area outside the pool, and Nichols was there. So Nichols dealt double deck to me for an hour. So I got an hour with him, and then at the end of the thing on Sunday, I asked SD1 if he would test me out on double deck, and he said sure. So we go out to one of the rooms, and he starts dealing me and asked me all these questions, and I was kind of nervous. I don't know why I was nervous anyway, because so I've been playing was double deck, and then he had some gals come in, and they messed with my hair and started talking to me. I said, "Oh no, there's no. I want to forget the count," but I never forgot the count. It was something else. So I really appreciate SD1's test out. That was cool.
Who are these gals? I don't remember these gals walking around.
Well, there were two.
Yeah, that
Nice.
was actually my girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
And her aunt. They had come into town and they just popped by to see what it was all about. And the aunt in particular really, really thought it was fun to mess with Joe Miner during it, better than I ever could have or do at boot camps to throw somebody off. So I very much remember your boot camp and that test out.
She came up to me and put her hand in my hair and she says, "Hey, big boy, what are you doing after this? You got time for dinner? I'll show you a good time."
All right, SD1, at the next boot camp, I better see you rubbing your hands through someone's hair and distract him.
I'll be sure to also dress up as a hot female. We'll see if I can pull it off.
Anyway, that was so cool. It was SD1 who told me to say after that, he said, I passed the test out, by the way, but he said, but you need to learn six stack. So after that boot camp, that's when I really started to get into six stack and watch all the videos and doing all the testing stuff that BJA has.
Can we get into that for a second? Because I do have quite a few people who ask me, they start practicing and they just start off with a double deck because maybe those are the best games around them, but then it's time to sort of graduate to six deck, just open up your playing field. What was the training looking like for you, having a background in double deck, switching to six deck? What was the most effective way for you to train?
Most effective way for me was doing the running count drills, because with double deck, the count never really it hardly ever gets high. So six deck, the count gets high and you have to hold it for a longer period of time, because double deck, obviously it shuffles after every deck and a half, where six deck after every 5.5 decks. So that was the hardest, was doing that. Learning the deviations for me was easy. The basic strategy was easy. True count conversion was the next step that I spent quite a bit of time on, was that. So the two drills that I focus on more than anything else was the running count and the true count conversion. The basic strategy and deviations were easy.
So at that time, when you're going through, you get involved with BJA, you're learning six deck too. Did you notice a difference training and learning? Because there's a big age difference from when you started in the 90s to now. Was there more of a challenge there to pick up new skills or new attributes of the game?
In 21, when I did my boot camp, I didn't notice any difficulty age-wise in learning or switching from double deck to six deck. And I didn't really switch, but I started concentrating more on double deck. And then I did another test out with, I don't know how I found Nubs, but Nubs came into the picture shortly after boot camp, and I made a trip up to Springfield and I did an 8-hour session with Nubs. And I thought yours was hard. Nubs was equally hard, but I didn't have the distraction of somebody coming mess with my hair. But we worked for 8 hours, and I had to work on dealer mispays and everything. I did a couple of test outs with him while I was there, and first one wasn't as good. The second one I passed, and then after that I said, okay, well, I need to have this test out again. So I flew back and I made arrangements with Loud and Often. So I came to a boot camp as an invited guest on Sunday afternoon, and Loud and Often tested me out with six deck, which I passed that. So during that years, even though I was older, I didn't have any difficulty making the conversion from double deck to six deck and back to double deck. I was using high-low now the whole time. I didn't do RPC at all.
Right. Side note, Nubs, don't think that your test out is harder than mine. You had 8 hours to do it. I had 20 minutes, so don't get a big head out there, bud.
I'll never forget your test out. I mean, the day I die, I'm going to remember that test out.
What do you like better? Do you like high-low more? Because, you went from one to the other, back to one. I'm really curious what you think about just simplicity and speed, or the high-low count versus what you'd switch to.
Going from RPC to high-low, that was a little bit of a challenge, because I was used to counting by twos and then the one in there. And then, because after a while, you just see the cards and you don't really go +2, -2, -1. You just see the cards and your mind makes the adjustment. So it took me a while to drop the +2, -2 to +1, -1. But once I did that, I really thought that the high-low, it was so much easier and so much quicker and took less brain capacity. And 2021, I was a little bit older, so whatever I could save. But then since then, I've toyed with going back to RPC, and I tried it, and I said it's just not worth it. And I've done simulations. I don't think there's that much of the gain. For me, high-low is it. It's simple, it's easy, and it's got the community support.
So you said back in the day you didn't really get backoffs. Has that changed?
Prior to 2002, I did experience a lot of backoffs. I think it was all based on bet spread, on how I got caught, because I didn't have the gray hair then. I got backed off, and then 86 from Mandalay Bay, several backoffs. But since boot camp, my backoffs has increased because I'm starting to play two hands, and I don't think I've handled that transition quite well enough. Like I go from 1 to 2 back to 1, and I think that that's a telltale sign. And definitely over the last 2 years, my backoffs have changed. Even playing, and I didn't think that would happen that much with six deck, but yeah, I'm getting backed off a lot, even playing six deck, even with gray hair.
Why don't you go ahead and give that story? Because I'm really curious how somebody at your very young age gets treated by the casinos.
A couple of years ago, there was an East Coast meetup that Nubs had organized, and we were staying in a place in Jersey just south of Philly. In the afternoons, we'd all go out and hit the tables and come back and tell our stories. So I went out and played Harrah's, and I did quite well. Two hands, max bet, 2 by 200 was all it was, and came back and was telling the story. And this other guy was telling Nubs about he went to Harrah's, and he lasted 20 minutes before he got backed off. And Nubs can, hey Joe, come over here and tell this guy how you did and the effects of having gray hair. So I told him that I was there for 2 hours, did quite well, no heat problems at all. So there is a difference between being old, having gray hair, and being a 20 or 30-year-old person betting the same thing. So I do think that I get away with a lot more, but I still get caught. But I think I get caught because how I'm betting, not how I look.
When you started getting backed off more, were you also betting? Was your max bet a lot more than when you were playing before?
Yeah, I went up to 2 by 2, 2 by 3, 2 by 5.
Oh.
And definitely when I got 2 by 5, I almost got backed off almost every time, even on a 6-bet game. There was this one time recently was playing MGM Springfield, and I was bouncing around tables. There was a $15 table, a $25 table, and I played a quarter at the $15 table, and then my bets were, I was doing okay, and I ramped up to 2 by 500, and shortly after that, the pit boss came over and told me, no more blackjack for you. I said, I'm sure you know what you're doing. And I said, no, I'm just playing my game. I don't know anything. Besides that, I had a quarter left on the table. The count at the end of that shoe, I was starting to get paid attention to. So I picked up my quarter and left, and that's when the guy came over and said, hey, I'm glad you're leaving, but no more blackjack for you. And besides that, here's $100. Here's a black chip for you, because we noticed when you're playing the $15 table, you were playing a quarter, and we thought maybe you didn't realize that. So here makes up for the fact that you were betting $10 more per hand. And I said, okay. So I took my $125. I didn't think I had any problem at all at the cage, right? So drop off $125, and the cashier said, well, we need to see your ID. I said, Well, I want to see it, but I'm not going to show it to you. If you get up, we're not going to cash you out unless we show your ID. I said, it's $125. So she got up and left, and the manager came in and he said, we have to see your ID. Those are our chips. It has our name on it. See right there, MGM. And I said, no, I bought those chips. Your obligation is to reimburse me for my chips. I said, pay me my chips. No, we're not going to pay you your chips. So I impulsively, and definitely don't advise this, I reached under the cage and pulled my chips back, and he says, those are our chips. And I said, no, they're my chips. He said, well, okay, we're going to go ahead and cash you out, or we're going to call security, and they're going to read you the Trespass Act and escort you out the door. So I got my money, and I just walked out the front door and didn't wait for the security guy.
I've never heard of that happening in my life. So he toked you, basically. He gave you money because he thought this guy didn't realize that he could be betting less. He's obviously a card counter. He would probably want to bet table minimum. And because he was betting higher than table minimum on the bad counts, we're going to reimburse you and give you this $100 chip. That's what happened?
That's exactly what happened.
That's nuts. So do you think he did that to specifically send you to the cage? I don't understand.
Looking back on it, I think that's exactly what he would do. I think he thought that I would go over there and give up my ID, and that's one way that they're going to identify who I am. And I think he encouraged me to go to the cage by his action of giving me the black chip.
That is an expensive get a name.
Do you ever get random ID checks when you're at the table?
No. I can walk in where they're IDing people walking the door, and I just walk on through. I never get asked for it. Every once in a while, they'll ask me if I want a player's card, and I said no. And I'm hardly ever bugged about getting a player's card or ID. Every once in a while at the cage, they'll ask me for an ID, but that was the most extreme situation there. So 2x500, I think it was the catalyst for the pit boss to come over.
Are you ever in the casino and you're playing fine and no one's caring, and then you see another counter at the same casino getting backed off while you're still there?
I never have seen another counter getting backed off. I've seen other counters there, and once I see them, if I was the second one there, then I get up and leave as soon as I can. But no, I've never seen another counter backed off.
Have you had any nasty backoffs?
I've had a back off that really pissed me off. Well, two of them that kind of pissed me off. One was at a little place. It's called Lake Topaz. It's on the border between California and Nevada, up in the mountains. And my friend Toyman likes to trout fish. So we were up there primarily trout fishing, and this they had a casino with one table. So my friend was playing the slots, and I decided to sit down at this table. It was a $2 table. So I just wanted to pass some time. I wasn't trying to, beat them up or anything. So I was playing for, 5-10 minutes, and I raised my bet up to $15 or $20, something like that. And the dealer, who happens to be the pit boss, says, you can't play here anymore. If you want to go play the slot machines, go do that. But your blackjack is over. A $15 bet on a $2 table. I mean, it's so bad. I remember stood up and I went back and told my friend, this place sucks. I can't believe I just got backed off. I just trying to sit down and have some good time while you're playing the slots. I got another story, the 86 story, if you want to hear that. So we were at Man Bay, and I was playing with Toyman again, and he's not a counter, but he knows basic strategy. So he'd be at third base, I'd be at shortstop, and he would sort of mimic my bet. When I would increase my bet, he'd increase his. When I lowered my bet, I'd lower mine. I'd always have my bet set first. We went there. It was a shift around noontime on one day, and we were there for a half hour, 40 minutes. Made, I don't know, maybe $500, something like that. And then the mistake we made was we went back the very following day, same time, same pit. So we were there once again for about half hour, and I got a tap on the shoulder, this guy in a suit, and there's two armed guards behind him, and said, come away from the table, you can't play blackjack here anymore, and I'm going to read you the Trespass Act. So he actually pulls out his card and reads me the Trespass Act. He said, these two guys here are going to escort you to the cage where you can cash out. So while I was doing that, the count went really high. So Toy Man, he had a handout and a split, and it doubled. So he was able to play out his hand, and he won about $1,200 while I was getting backed off. Then he came and tapped him out, and these two guards escorted us to the cage. And these are Barney Fife type guards, right? I mean, they're older, they're paunchy, they have a gun, and I swear to God, if they had any bullets, they just have one each in their pocket. So we were walking to the cage, and they said, this is laughable. What are we going to do if you start running? We're going to chase you. We're not going to shoot you. So we went to the cage, and then they took us to the valet. We got our car, but that was a mistake. I figured out later on we should not. We should just gotten a taxi and left because now they knew what kind of a car we had. But anyway, status set me. I was that stupid to go back to back consecutive days at the same time. After that, I started keeping a spreadsheet on where I was playing, so I wouldn't do that.
So you haven't had any real nasty backoffs recently.
No.
Do you think that has to do with how you treat people or your age or both?
They'll come up to me and say, I'm sorry, but you can't play anymore. And I just look at them and say, okay, thank you very much. I understand you're doing your job. I'm just doing my job, and pick up my chips and left. So that's typically how almost all my backups are. They're polite. I just had those couple of ones that I probably overreacted to, but I usually just say, thank you very much.
Have you ever had somebody be very overly apologetic that they have to back you off?
No, I've never had that. No.
I was curious about that. Just being an older guy now, I wondered if they're like, "Oh gosh, sorry, sir."
The one guy at Red Rock backed me off, and he said, "Well, not only can you not play here, but we're firing you. Your county days in this city is over."
Ah, sure it is, bud.
Yeah. Yeah.
In all your years of experience playing and seeing how everything changes for new card counters getting into this, is there any kind of advice you would give to them? What's worth doing? What's not worth doing? Or
Colin did an interview with Mike Aponte not too far back, and Aponte said something to the effect, you don't go in there to jam it down their throat. You go in there and play. I had the honor of having breakfast with Don Schlesinger here about a year and a half ago, and over an hour conversation, and he said the same thing, that his experience is, and I agree with this, that some of the younger players, they just want to shove it in their face. And if that's your style, I think maybe that's more like you, Joe. I think you go in there and, you throw it out there and you play it till you're backed off. But the other school is, maybe it's like a Scott Chow approach. You go in there and you try to get them for as much as you can, but still don't burn the place down. So I think it's just a personality thing, how you want to go about doing it. And I think one reason why I've lasted as long as I've had, one, I don't need the game to make money. I had a good career, and I made my money. So to me, it was just a part-time passionate. So that influences my style of play.
And how much of your time is playing in Vegas versus other markets?
Prior to boot camp, it was all either in Vegas or is in the San Diego casinos. Since then, I'd say that I'm probably half and half, or maybe a third Vegas and 2/3 playing the East Coast, primarily Philly, Springfield, Missouri. So a third to a half is probably still Vegas, but 2/3 to a half other places.
Are you tired of Vegas just from the heat and the poor conditions, or is it still worth it, you think?
I really like Vegas. I have a good time when I'm there. I'm getting ready to go there tomorrow again for a week. And I've got a spreadsheet of, 17 or 18 different double deck games that I'm going to hit while I'm there, and see how many hours I can get in and see how much I can push my ramp.
So does the wife go with you on these trips?
She doesn't like casinos. I mean, she supports my blackjack passion. But this trip, yeah, she's going to go with me until Sunday, and then she comes home Sunday, and I'm going to stay. We're going to go out there. I have a grandson that's playing in a soccer tournament out there. Then we're going to go out there and see him, and we're going to go see the Eagles at the Sphere. So we ask a special treat, and then she'll leave on Sunday, and I'll stay till the following Thursday.
In terms of like you're coming back into it full head of steam, you know, you go to boot camp, you come out of boot camp, you're all fired up. I'm sure your training ramped up a lot. What mistakes did you learn from, and how would you suggest people move forward with what they learn about being in casinos and the training that you're doing?
For me, obviously, it's important for me, especially at this age, that I train every day for probably an hour. An hour out of every day, I'll do some kind of training, either through the Casino Ready site or BJA sites doing the test site. I'll do like I'm getting ready to play double deck this coming week in Vegas. So I do 2, maybe 3 double deck test outs on a BJA every day. And I'll go through the running count and true count conversion. The double deck true count and conversion is nothing. So it's just primarily just sharpening the running count. But the mistakes I think that I've made is playing too fast, seeing the cards and thinking that I know that a 7 and 8 is 15 and not some other number. Every once in a while, I'll make that mistake, especially it's caught because the training site will, when you check in with your running count, if you're off by 1, it'll tell you that. But my biggest mistake now is that I'll play too fast, where 5, 6, 7 years ago, that was not a problem. Now playing too fast is the problem. I've got to slow down.
Accuracy overall. That's the most important thing.
I've got deviations down, basic strategy down, so it's just a matter of not playing too fast and recognizing the hand and doing the conversion, and so I can know how to take insurance properly and the other deviations.
Do you play shorter sessions too now?
I've been doing shorter sessions for quite a while. When I started getting backed off in Vegas prior to 2020, my sessions were 15, 20 minutes, 40 minutes max. I'm still keeping to that. So the last couple of trips to Vegas last year and the year before, sometimes I'd get backed off after 20 minutes. So playing a shorter session doesn't always do it. And I haven't figured that out quite yet. And I think it's because of how I'm handling switching back and forth between one hand, 2 hands. And I've decided this trip here, I'm going to follow some advice from this other sage that I knew about. Just play 2 hands all the way through. So that's what I'm doing.
It's just my opinion.
I know. I'll let you know in a week.
All right. Especially in Vegas.
What is it that you enjoy about the game?
It's a mathematical game. I love math. I love knowing that over time I'm going to win. And I love taking the money from the casinos. I love seeing the pit bosses watch me and then walk away, or the dealers' comments maybe about stuff. I just love the fact that I can beat the game, and taking their money is fantastic.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe Miner, for giving us your time. And I think a lot of BJA members really like your contributions on the forum there. So we look forward to seeing all of your updates and your posts. And if you guys are curious or interested in joining the next upcoming boot camp, we still have a few spots left. It'll be February 28th and March 1st. You can go to blackjackapprenticeship.com in the bootcamp section for more info. Book a free phone call with myself or SD1, and we can help figure out if bootcamp is the right thing for you.